Back to the Football 360 show. I am JP Rock. He is Matt Beerbin. You can catch everything Football 360 show at football360show.com. We're coming at you live on X as well as YouTube. And of course, we are always on Spotify as well as Apple Music as well for the podcast. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing great.
Where can people reach you? They want to reach out and ask you a question.
Elite Football on X, Elite Football Academy on Instagram, and then elitefootball.net on the interweb.
Yep, and you can reach me at JPRockMO on X, JPRock Scouts U, the letter U, on Instagram, and of course at gpsfootball.org, game plan strategies, helping you navigate football futures. You're not just going to make it on your own. Just showing up doesn't make it. You got to have a plan. You got to have a strategy, and you also need tools like Offered to help you out. In fact, I was just a consultation last night, and I highly promote Offered because it's one of the tools to help you,
Yeah.
so you know who's looking at your emails, who's going to talk to you, and help you keep track of what you're doing. Really,
I mean, JP, that's the thing is it's like
one of us is gone. It might be both
it's a
of us
it's a
gone.
it's a
There we go.
multifaceted approach that you're going to have to be successful. Like you got to have a push and a pull, right? So you have to have you guiding them, and then obviously communicating with people, and also you need to be proactively sending messages out to coaches, following up on camp invites, on junior day invites, all those things, learning about the process, and going in and really taking some ownership. I mean, I think far too often you and
That's
I
huge.
hear
Yep.
the same thing over and over. People kind of like play football for the high school and then just think that they're going to be the next up because some other guy at their school signed with such and such college last year and it's their turn. And it's really like it's like having your head in the sand and not realizing like that family of that other boy that signed last year spent 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours a month working on this stuff to
Right.
get their kid promoted to just have two or three offers, right? And I think um, you and I can help really scale that process down and at least give them an idea of what they're up against. And you and I were talking about it yesterday. I think one of the beautiful things about working with you, the beauty of it is you will tell them kind of where they're at in the process. You will tell them kind of what your real assessment of them is and whether they like to hear it or not. And I
Yep.
think there are people that will definitely tell you what you want to hear, right? And I think, that is an issue because at the end of the day, you know, you're being viewed pretty harshly by colleges. Like you're gonna
Yep.
be there's nobody there that's just gonna love you because your parents love you, right?
Yeah.
Or your high
As
school coach says you're pretty good.
absolutely,
There's
as I told a
a
couple of
harsh
parents.
lens that you're being viewed against and I viewed through that if you don't have all the tools
Yeah.
and all the extra things going in your favor, you're really kind of in trouble, right?
Right, absolutely. As I told a couple of parents yesterday,
Oh,
you,
can you hear me, JP?
I can't. I can hear you. I don't think you can
We
hear me.
lagged out there.
Yeah, I don't think
Can you
you.
hear
I don't
me?
think. Yeah, I can hear you. I don't think you can hear me though. So that might be a
I see
problem.
JP is just a head sitting there staring at me.
I hear
So I'm not sure if
you.
anybody can hear. We have some a little
You.
technical difficulties
Yeah.
this week with our internet here at our studio. So,
Yep.
the process of getting um, recruited is not easy, right? And I think that's what we're really trying to just drive home each week, especially this time of year with all the families getting an idea of what actually they're getting themselves into. It's one thing just to play high school football and enjoy being a high school football player. It's another thing to really dig deep into the process and get to go where you want to go and have an idea of what you're really up against. But I don't understand the approach of just hoping and praying and thinking that's going to work out for you. So, getting with someone like JP that will actually tell you where you stand in the process and then give you a real framework of what you should be doing and then utilizing a system like Offer that it will actually automate some of the processes for you and give you an idea of kind of where you're at in those with sending messages to coaches and getting feedback if they're opening it, if they've seen it, And then various times of your recruitment,
Right.
if you're a freshman or sophomore, they can't really reply to you. I mean,
Right.
some coaches will, but they're technically not supposed to. And then after that, your summer of your sophomore season, there's a period of time where they can start to communicate with you via email, phone, text, all those things. So, I think you got to be hip to how the process works. You have to understand what you're up against. You're competing against guys that are much older than you in the recruiting in the transfer portal. I was talking to one of our friends of the show, Andy Hafner. He's a really good guy who was on the show earlier this year, and he talked through some of the process of his son, his stepson, Brett Ottensmeyer, who went to Missouri State this year, who's a current freshman, an early enrollee. And one of the points he brought up is like, say your kid is a freshman right now, is a 2029. Give it 2-3 years from now, he's going to be competing against the guys that were 2024s, 2025s, 2026s as the people that he's being viewed through and recruited against, right? And so if he is not prepared, now we're not saying he's going to be maybe physically as big and strong as those older guys, but he is also in a position where ultimately he's going to be, they're trying to project if he's going to be there pretty quickly, and they're not going to want to spend a lot of time building and developing your son to get to that level of guys that are already fully mature. And I think that is the tough thing. And so there's a lot of things that kids need to be doing in high school if they just want to be competitive when they get to college, let alone get the chance to be at the college they want to be at. So
Can you hear me,
um,
Matt?
I think hopefully JP. I think
Can
he
you hear
can
me?
hear me.
I can hear
Unfortunately, he can't
you.
say anything right now
Oh no.
because the feed got cut off. But for his feed. So, but I do think from the parents' perspective, you do need to be realistic about what you're hoping for and what you want from your child's success out of high school football, right? And I think there's plenty of kids, and you see them; they'll get the Division I offers, and they have multiple Division I offers, maybe 30 or 40 offers, but those are few and far between. So everybody kind of sees those kids and thinks that their kid is that kid, and truthfully. JP and I can tell you, as long as we've done this, like sometimes we don't even know why certain guys are those guys, right? Because it's a timing issue. It's a situation where the kid gets a couple offers as a freshman or a sophomore. He fits the size parameters that are needed, and then all of a sudden, he turns into a guy that is recruitable and everybody wants him, right? And so, you know, I know while maybe your son might appear to be similar to that, and you might think he's just as good, the unfortunate truth is until uh, until colleges see it that way, it's just probably not gonna happen by forced measures, right? So, getting the information out there and making sure your son's highlight film looks good and making sure everything is done the right way is really the only thing you can do as a parent. You can make sure that their film looks good. Make sure they have a really good recruiting profile that send to people that's digital.
Can you hear me?
You're back.
Hey,
You're back, JP.
I was there the whole time and I could hear
I know.
you.
I could see. Yeah, you were there
And
staring at the
I was
audience.
no, I was giving you sound like I said, I can hear you. Can
Yeah.
you hear me? And your sign language isn't that good.
You know what? I feel like the guy was at the Super Bowl off to the side doing the sign language at the beginning of the game that
But I'll
was
tell you what,
really excited about doing it.
God bless you, man, because you were giving it your all. You're just like, keep talking,
Well, I was
keep
waiting
talking.
for you to come back in, but yeah, but
You were
JP,
vamping pretty good, man.
hey man, thank you. It was funny about the first 5 seconds. I'm like, man, JP's just staring at me, right? So,
Right.
and for those people at home, like obviously JP is not in the same studio as me, and uh, he's piped in. So sometimes the wonders of the internet do not work as
They
well as
don't
we'd like
work.
them to.
No,
But yeah,
I'm in the glorious game plan strategy studio
yes,
as we speak, and so it's good to be back. But no, as you were talking about stuff, I was just gonna say, I had to tell a couple of parents yesterday in consultations about how, they're going to hear some uncomfortable truths. You know that there's a lot of people out there who just want to tell you what you want to hear for their own personal reasons. You know, be it financial, be it they don't want us. They don't want to make you upset. They don't want to make you angry. But you know, coaches are looking for reasons not to offer you. Coaches are looking for reasons to get you cut you loose from your offer. So you got to hear these things. And so I understand coach speak. You understand coach speak. So it's a whole new world out there where everybody has to do more than like I said, you know, back in the day, you showed up, you were the stud guy on the football team, they'd show up, right? But we're seeing guys who have D1 credentials and D1 talent having to go out lower because the climate that we're in as far as football goes. And yesterday was a perfect example with the combine of young guys taking the first steps and the initiative to put themselves on a path by showing up at the elite football middle school combine. And all those guys, I mean, that was great combine, by the way, that you and staff put on, and a great turnout of guys. And there was some talent there, man. There was some talent
Big,
there.
some good sized kids too, and then some just really just good athletes, really good
Yeah. Oh,
athletes.
absolutely, absolutely, and good young athletes as well.
Hmm.
Justin Dulick is a name for people to remember. Just a sixth grader caught my attention up there. When I do believe his dad. Now his dad is Jason
Jason
Dulick.
Dewey, yep,
Yeah.
played at Illinois, really good player. Played
Sloop.
at SLU,
Yep.
been a head coach at Gateway for man, oh man, a long time. My
Yeah.
gosh, probably. I would assume he's probably. I would have to ask him, but I would assume going on 20 years,
Right.
if not more. So he's been a really good fixture for that program, and they had a heck of a year. Not this past season, the season
Right.
before. But yeah, his man, he kept getting better and better through the day
Yep.
yesterday, and
Some really
you
good
know,
young guys. There was him. There was some. Well, I think it was fifth grade, right? Fifth grade through eighth grade.
yeah,
Uh,
yes,
Kids there, and I mean they came and they bought into it. They took the coaching and they excelled. And you're right, when they first show up, you see the nerves, right? You see the nerves on them. You know, it's a big deal to them. They watch the NFL combine on TV, and so they show up, and you can tell they're nervous, right? They're holding their little cards, and they're shaking in their hand, and they're just wide eyed. Um, but it's really amazing. And as you know, one of your coaches, Kevon Gaines, said, you know, these guys showing up now, and by the time they're seniors in high school, they will be so into the process and be so far ahead of everybody else because they will have been doing this for that many years, and so they will know what lies ahead of them. And so, what a combine like you had yesterday is exactly what is done with the Lindenwood camp and other football camps that go on. So think about that. How many years you have of preparation for when the time counts to
hmm.
actually showcase your skill and your talent.
You know, JP too. You know, a refreshing thing about the junior, like the little middle school combine is those younger guys. You don't have any kids coming up and going, "Oh, I was told not to run my 40, not to run my broad, do my broad
Correct.
jump."
Yeah.
You know, how many times have we seen where kids will come up and then they will not run, right? Because someone has
Yep.
advised them not to run. And yeah, can you get away with that if you've got a bunch of offers? Okay, maybe, but at the end of the
Mhm.
day, at some point you have to run. Like whether that's going into college or going into the pros, like they make you run, right? And
Yep.
so I was telling the kids yesterday, if you think of it in these terms, two notable names that have done our high school combine, you have and both train with us, Kyron Williams and Jeremiah Love.
Hmm.
Okay, one, if you were to look at his measurables, Kyron Williams is not the biggest guy. Now he's more physically mature now, but
Yep.
at the time, never really a super tall guy.
Yep.
And I would not argue he was a very quick guy, but never a straight line like Burner. Fast enough, but not the fastest, right?
Correct. Correct.
And Jeremiah Love, on the other hand, taller, bigger, uh, a true sprinter, right? A true jumper, like extremely explosive. Um, but those are two guys within the same range, and so the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Both guys that played running back at Notre Dame. Both guys excelled extremely well in college. Kyron's been a couple time, a Pro Bowl player. So you look at that perspective, and you say, okay, you have guys in the same, the same spectrum, if you will. They put one a little bit one towards the other end of the spectrum, and they both have found their success. So my point to the kids is, just because you weren't the fastest guy there, if you're within the right range and you have the right mix, right, where Kyron is really good at his pro agility and he's very elusive. He may not beat you in a 40-yard dash, but you don't catch him on the football field.
Right.
And
He's
so
football fast.
he
Yep.
knows how to run angles. And
Yep.
so I think that to me, and he always has since he's been a little kid. I mean, that's who he is. Whereas Jeremiah, you get in a foot race, I mean, he is going to blow your doors off. So,
Mhm.
but I think that's an important thing to like point to these kids. Like, you're never a finished product. You're not the same as everybody else. You have your own unique gifts that you've been given. Whether someone wants to tell you, oh, you're too short, or you're too tall, or you're this, or you're that, you know, you have to have the underlying skill sets. You have to be athletic enough, and then have the underlying skill sets, and then the mental makeup, to make that work for you. And I think the tough thing when it comes to recruiting is you want it to be a certain way. You want everybody to see it your way, and unfortunately, sometimes you don't fit what they're looking for. Like, for instance, Mizzou, Kyron Williams did not fit whatever Mizzou wanted. I don't know why, but
Well,
they.
he did towards the end of his recruitment, and
Well,
by
yeah,
that
of
time it
course
was
they,
too late.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But he fit it. You and I know he fit it the entire time.
Oh, correct. Because
If you were going to view him.
we were at a camp, and they did not even want to talk to him or his mother, and all he
Mm-mm.
wanted was to talk with the coach, and so missed the opportunity on that. But like you were saying, we were talking to some kids yesterday, right? And they were trying to tell us what positions they played. And we were trying to inform them that you're going to play where coaches want you to play, right? So you can't
Mhm.
lock yourself into I'm this, I'm that, as you were saying. A lot of guys want to say, oh, I'm this, I'm that. But in the end, you are what you're going to be if you want to play football.
And I think looking at size, looking at explosiveness, looking at overall athleticism, and mental makeup, right? Like, just
Huge.
like what it all plays to who you're going to be. And so sometimes, trying to put a square peg in a round hole is not really. Sure, you can do that. I mean, how many times have we seen kids that have mispositioned themselves, or parents that have fought to say, my kid's this? I mean, the classic one is kids that play defensive line. When you look at them and 100% they're an offensive lineman,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And I think they take that as like I'm not athletic. I don't, but you don't know
Hmm.
how athletic I really am, right?
Right.
And it's like, no, you just physically fit much better on the offensive line. Your mindset, your how you focus, how you drill, how you move.
Yep.
You're an offensive lineman, and that is not a slight. I mean,
Not at all.
what I mean, I don't see why it would be. So I think parents being objective, and talking to people that have experience and have good eyes, and say, hey, we've seen this. I mean, the lens that I'm looking through and you're looking through is not like it is honed. I mean, it is honed. Like, we have done it for so long.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be mean. You're not trying to be mean. You're trying to be realistic and help people speed up the process and avoid mistakes that other people before them have made. And really, like, I always tell people, like, we have no, like, what do I care if I tell you about a position? We train all
Right.
positions. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings
Right.
and drive you to one specific thing because that's going to make me money. Like, that's not, it has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with helping you try and find the right fit for your child. And sometimes you and I know they don't fit perfectly in the high school system, but they're required to play something by what their coaches want them to play. But those kids also can then keep that and do that to the best of their ability, and then also have a forward-looking view that maybe they may grow and they may get stronger and they may get to play a different position. So maybe they train on that on the weekends and do that as extra work. So someday they can change.
Yeah.
But you're never a finished product until you're done and you're retired.
No, that's true. And it's difficult to, get that point across to a 13-year-old, 12, 13, 14-year-old, because they have a vision of what they think of themselves at that point, what they want to be. But eventually you hope it clicks with them. And mindset, as you were saying before, is really everything when it comes to football. Your mindset will keep you in the game. Your mindset will get you through injuries. Your mindset will help you make it as far as you possibly can. Because if you don't have that, you talk to players, then that's done. And interesting kids that were there. We saw some kids that had been at the one the previous year, and it was great, especially from my position, scouting players, to see the growth that they make, not only physically, which some of them was like, wow, you know what I mean, the difference a year
Mm-hmm.
makes, but also skill wise with their mindset, athletically, all of that. And so that's why, starting early, coming back to these, because we see a lot of guys who come to them or once or twice and then they're done. And then as soon as the offers start popping in or they think they've made it within their team, they're willing to stop. And that the great thing about the combines and the elite combines coming up on March the 14th, the high school one, which eighth graders that are going to be freshmen can also participate in. The great thing about that is it's a judge of where you are in your development as a football player and an athlete, and it lets you know where you need to still go to maximize your potential. Okay,
Yes.
and as you said about telling kids not to run, and I was talking to a coach about this because he had a couple kids and he's like, I don't know that I want them to run their 40. I'm like you said, you got to run it sometime, but also, you know, you're not there to hurt kids. You're there to help kids.
No.
So times are scratchable, right?
Yeah.
Anything
100%.
those kids don't want, they get to look at their times and their scores. And if they don't want it, then you scratch it, right? You don't put it out there for people. But you know where you're at. Because I asked these kids if they were with their coach, I'm like, what's your 40? Have you ever run a 40? Nope, never run a 40. Well, then how do you know how good you are? How do you
Correct.
know what you need to do to get better? Right?
And I tell the kids, I told them all yesterday, when you get your results, compare yourself to other kids in your grade and your position.
Yep.
Then take some time, go back and look at some of the kids that we've had over the years. Look at those older kids and look what they ran when they were juniors and seniors. So
Right.
you kind of have a benchmark and a set of goals that you can work towards. And JP, the sad thing is, a lot of these kids, and I feel real bad because I have seen kids that have, not tested over the years because they've had a bunch of offers and they think they're getting over on people and kind of fooling them, but then eventually they get found out, right? And so
Yes.
you're always going to get found out. Like that's just the way it goes. And so
Mhm.
I just don't like. I don't understand the why you wouldn't want to test, especially if you're in an environment that will allow you to scratch your scores and not let them be made public.
Yeah. Well, I think
You
a
know,
lot of people think that they're gonna wait until it's like a lot of people in things in life they want to do. Oh, I'm gonna open a business when I'm ready, right? When I think it's perfect, or I'm gonna ask this girl out when it's perfect timing. There is no perfect timing. You got to do it, and that's your experience, and that's your learning experience. You don't
hmm
get better if you don't try, right?
yeah,
So that's really the key. You got to try, and then you work from there to get better.
100%. And I think you have to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, there was some of these little guys in there yesterday. And when I say little, like fifth grade guys who probably didn't even know how their parents got, why they were where they were going.
Right,
And
right.
you get there and you're with the older kids, you're out of your comfort zone. I think that's a great lesson to learn, right? Because you're out there competing, you're going one on one, whether it's in the O line, D line, running back, linebacker, the DB and receivers. And you know what? I saw some kids get pushed to the ground. I saw some kids get right back up. I mean,
Yeah,
resiliency in football is a requirement. Whether you throw a crap pass or an interception or you drop a ball or you get beat on a rep, you get stonewalled. It is what it is.
yeah,
We live in an era where so many of these kids are afraid to make mistakes and they feel like they're being disrespected. When the reality of it is, every man in there helping them coach has made mistakes on the football field, has been embarrassed, so to speak, on a rep. It is
yeah.
what it is. Like that's part of competing. And so I think putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to be in that environment makes all the difference in the world of like building resiliency in these young athletes and getting them in a position where, you may have people going, well, why would you have a middle school combine? Like, well, let me tell you, some of these eighth graders already have good enough times where people might starting to, look at
Right.
them, right?
Yep.
The other thing is, I think again, there's the resiliency component. There's experience. I mean, I look at the kids last year, the kids that were eighth graders that did the one in February and then prepared and got ready a month later and did the high school combine.
Mm-hmm.
Now they were not the stud. They were the studs at the eighth grade one, and then when they got to the high school one, they kind of fall in the middle of the pack because they're younger. But the reality of it is they were confident in themselves, right?
Right.
And then maybe they get some improvement on their testing because they're more comfortable doing it, or maybe they put in work over the next month to get better at it. So, as parents trying to do the right thing for your kids in the development phase, it's not all about recruiting. But if you ask every kid there, even at the middle school combine, how many of you want to play college football? Every single one of them raised their hand,
Right.
right? And so, okay, if that's a dream that you have, then you need to work for it. That'd be like, hey, how many of you guys want to be doctors? And then you tell them like, hey, the requirement is you're going to go to college for 4 years, and then you got to go to another 4 years, and then you got to spend however many years in like before you're even a doctor.
Right.
Those are the requirements, right? And so, you know, uh, it's silly to think that like, hey, you want to be a college football player? Well, these kids are getting paid now. It's becoming a business, right? These are really big businesses that are operating, some at losses, some at gains. But you are entering into the realm of significant money. And by the time those fifth graders that were there yesterday are in college, the college football is going to be a
Oh,
completely different animal, like not even close.
it's going to be a second pro league.
Oh, 100%. So,
That's what it's going to be.
so that actually is another interesting thing. You look at all these losses that these colleges are posting. I think Mizzou lost 9 million, their athletic department. I was looking at Alabama brought in Alabama basketball and football both turned a profit, and every other sport that they have lost them money, right? And so I think Alabama football netted 65 million, and their basketball was around 9 million. And
Mm-hmm.
then every other sport like golf, 2 million, track and field, 4 million. These are all budget items. Essentially, they're being subsidized by football, right? And
Yep.
like and basketball, but to a certain extent. So that's why the money is going to the football players and basketball players because they're the ones that are actually that have drive value. I mean, with all due respect, like a college golfer, a college tennis player, a college swimmer, they are not driving revenue, right? Now, are they getting some of them getting paid NIL? Yes, of course they are. But the reality of it is, do they really have? I would question whether or not they really are driving their name, image, and likeness is really driving any real value or worth, other than someone wants to win a softball national championship.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the chasm is going to keep building to the point where these colleges have to say enough's enough. We're tired of losing money on this, and then at that point, you're going to have this new league swoop in and say, "Hey, we're here to save you." And I've seen it laid out. It'll be real similar to MLS. So the MLS will be is like a solely owned like entity, and then it has licenses that go out to each different team. So like University of Missouri will have a license for their football team, okay, but they will be owned. And JP, I talked about this. I was at the mating camp, talked to some people about it when we were down there 2 years ago. And I think they looked at me like I had three heads. And I'm like, listen, the way this is going to work, the Title IX stuff, the colleges want nothing to do with it, right? Because
Yep.
they're paying these athletes, and they have no choice. They have to do it. But like the football players and basketball players are the ones that are earning the bringing the revenue. So what's going to happen is to get around all back in the day, the scholarship issues were, well, because football has 85 scholarships, we have to make the commensurate amount of scholarships for females to play their sport. But if it was sport for sport, soccer for soccer, basketball for basketball, any sport where males and females have a all the same sport and the same sport of male and female, like it would be pretty equitable. That's fine. Then you can decide, do we want a hockey team, male and female? No, we don't. Okay, fine. But they were forced to do this for so many years. But when these schools farm their football clubs and basketball clubs outside of the NCAA into these new leagues, and then they basically just own a license for their football team, and they have private equity that's now paying them money, and they're now running this thing like a real business and not losing $40 million a year, and they're getting paid for their royalties and the things that they should have been doing all along and not taking money from the kids. We're going to see a new day. But at the same time, do not be naive to think that the charitable, curators of each one of these institutions is going to keep taking it on the chin and paying out of the kindness of their hearts for sports that don't generate any money at all. Right. And
Right.
so, I think there's going to be a major shift. I don't know that there's any way to avoid it at this point when you see these schools losing all this money. And I think part of the reason they're managing their money that way is it's going to drive the change that they want. See, we can't operate in this environment. We need this. We need this, right? And I think eventually it's going to get to the point where they have to do that. I mean, when you have schools losing 40-50 million dollars, I think Penn State they redid their stadium, and that line item is going to be like, it is unbelievable. It's like hundreds of millions of dollars they're in the hole right now, and there's not really a way back out to the top, right? And I think
Right.
that's where you have the private equity money to come in and save the day. And so I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, then you look at like the antitrust lawsuits and all the protections that they're seeking. That's great, but wait till there's collective bargaining as well, and the players are unionized, and no longer are we worried about 5 years of eligibility. It turns into another pro league because do they want the money to stop? The players and the schools? No, they don't want the money to stop. So I mean, it will be bigger than the NFL when it's all said and done. No doubt about it. It'll generate probably upwards of 40 or 50 billion dollars, much more than what the NFL brings in. So I think it's a unique time to be watching football, but it is not the football that you and I grew up watching, right? And so
No.
to sit here as a parent, getting your kid playing to go in and play at that level, you are extremely naive if you think that it's the way it's always been, and that Johnny's good and he gets to just go play college football at XYZ State University. It just doesn't work that way anymore.
No, it's not, and I'm telling you what, it's not even the same as it was 10 years ago. I mean, it's not the same game. It's not the same institutions. I was talking to a guy who used to write for me at my Show Me Mizzou site, and we were going over the fact how it was 9 coaches, 9 assistant coaches, right? The head coach and then his assistants, and then one recruiting assistant, one, right? And the quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator, was also the recruiting coordinator
Mm-hmm.
as well. So now, I mean, you don't even know how many are on the quote unquote staff, right? They have separate recruiting staff. They have the high school recruiting staff. They have the portal staff. They have all these assistants, GAs. They have analysts. They have all this stuff. And so think about that. 10 years ago, or say maybe 13 years ago, 14 years ago, when Mizzou was winning SEC championships, SEC, conference championships, they were doing it with such a small staff by comparison, as
Yeah.
opposed to what's going on. And the money's got to come from somewhere to pay everybody, like you said. And so at some point, you're probably going to wind up seeing, the Missouri Tigers powered by Monster Sports Drink, or the Missouri
Yeah.
Tigers powered by Wells Fargo.
Well, they can now
Brought to you by.
they can put sponsorships on the field now, and I
Yep.
believe they can put them on their jerseys now, starting next year.
But there's going to be
Um,
some big corporation. There's going to be a Mark Cuban, some kind of a billionaire who's going to have to back the big
oh yeah,
programs.
and so
You know?
Mizzou's catching flack because they're going to do naming rights for the new, the stadium. They've expanded
Mhm.
it, and it's Memorial Stadium, so you have people up in arms. They're like, hey, this is memorializing people that died in the war. and you guys are going to sell the rights. I'm sure they'll still call it whatever. They'll be respectful of it, but
Hmm.
that is a sign of the times. They got to. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You want a really nice stadium with a $280 million end zone that for better game experience everybody's wanted for years, and now you're going to complain when they try to cover some of those costs. I mean, like, come on.
Right.
But speaking of, you know, you know, I the beholder and guys and how how it's changed. I had a conversation with someone and it came full circle yesterday because I had heard the backside of the story, and I'm going to keep names out of it because it's like there's no need to like talk the names. But
Hmm.
let's just say there was a quarterback that was getting recruited at a big at Power Four school. He did not have the offer. Then he gets the offer, but they had a kid that was already committed there, who had been committed there for many months, who was a top level guy, multiple state champion, has been a guy since middle school. Everybody knows his name. He had like probably 40, 50 offers. And they offered a quarterback and then told that quarterback, which that was divulged to us, is that they said, hey, if you commit here, we're going to run him off. That's what he was told,
Yeah.
right? And so, one, that sounds enticing, but at the same time, like it's a little disheartening because if they're going to do that to you, like that, if a girl cheats once, she'll cheat again, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
That tigers don't change their stripes. So,
Yep.
like so, the reality of it is that potentially that could happen to you right down the line. So you just got to know that going in. Well, this guy knew the other kid in the scenario and his father, and he was like, look, it basically came down to this kid had 40 or 50 offers, had committed to these guys. And then once you commit like that and you're in a hard commit, everybody else just kind of goes away. Or some of those offers of those 40 or 50 weren't really committable to begin with, right? They
Yeah.
were just space holders. That kid then gets bounced because the one quarterback commits there. They bounce this kid. He's sitting there a couple weeks before signing day, has nowhere to go.
Hmm.
Like he had one offer left, okay, and it was in the same conference, oddly enough. So he's now at that school, but it wasn't where he had been recruited. It wasn't where he really wanted to go. He had been hard committed, but it just tells you there's no trust until you sign on that dotted line, and then there's no trust at that point either because they
Oh.
are always looking to upgrade. They're always looking to get someone that's better than you. And I think you hear Tom Brady talk about, well, this day and age, and like I wouldn't have been who I was if I would have transferred. But yeah, but that's somewhat of a tough conversation because two totally different eras,
Yeah. Two
right?
totally different eras, and he played in a totally different, almost a basically different sport. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
than what's going on now. So you can't compare that. You can't compare eras, and you can't compare, what he went through. It's
no,
no, it's crazy. You're absolutely right, and that's part of why we do this. It's part of why we, with GPS football, doing that to help those guys because parents are at a disadvantage, players are at a disadvantage. They need somebody who knows coach speak, right? They need somebody who knows the moves that the coaches are making. What is this meaning? Just like you said, if your girlfriend cheats on you, would it be nice if you had somebody who was there telling you, hey, you know what? You better watch what she's doing. You better watch this. Now, most people don't listen when you in that kind of a situation about but still, it's nice if you have people like you and I to help get you through that sort of a thing because man, it's such a disadvantage. Parents, players, such a disadvantage, and it's getting worse because you got big money involved now, and you have people coming in from the outside wanting to be agents, wanting to help you with that NLI, wanting to help you here and there. I was talking to a coach about tampering once players are in college. How does a kid enter the portal, says do not contact, and the next day he's at this new school? How does that happen?
well, he'd already
Automatic.
been contacted. Well, so what's
Absolutely.
going on is you have scenarios where you have coaches who are represented by certain agents or agencies
Yep.
who then also represent players. So there's a easy, some would say conflict of interest, but I would also say that's just kind of how it's done until they have hard parameters put up. You're going to have situations like that. So yeah, you have guys that can definitely have conversations with coaches who they represent. That's going to help them. They help each other out.
Backdoor
And
channels.
Yeah, I mean, like that. Like, I mean, I forgot. I don't know if it was true or not, but you remember that the Damon Williams situation at Washington. You
Hmm.
know, I had read or heard. You know, he was the guy who signed a $5 million deal. Then a day later goes into the portal, and so apparently his agent was the same agent as the college coach.
Hmm.
So how awkward is that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Heck
think
of a
it's one of those
coincidence.
things. Yeah, very, very. And so I think that's to be truthful. I think there's a bit of a conflict of interest if people are, you know. But I again, like that will all be fleshed out in the coming rules and things that they
Hmm.
implement down the
Yep.
line when they put standards together. Because you know, a lot of times in the NFL, the guys representing the players are not the guys representing the coaches. That's just it's just to kind
Right.
of keep them separate. But again, it is what it is. The rules are the rules right now. There are no rules, so it happens. And so again, I'm not faulting anybody that's doing that. I just do think that it's you can rig the game a little bit to your advantage. And honestly, for kids, I would go with someone that represents coaches if you're the person that especially in the transfer portal,
It's going to help
right?
you out. Yeah.
It's going to help you out, and that's I think there's some truth in that. But JP, the whole process of getting recruited, at the end of the day, we could talk all about this all day long about how to get recruited, all the things. If you're not a player and you don't possess skills or some attributes that they want, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter. Like you
Right.
could you could wish yourself to be a football player. I could also wish myself to be an actor, right?
Yeah.
Ain't happening, right? I just like if I'm not putting in the work to do it, it's not going to happen, right? And I
Yeah.
think football is one of those things, just as acting is, where you see people doing it, and if they're really good, they make it look easy, and everybody thinks they can do it. And unfortunately, only a very few can do it, right? And so
Yep.
if you watch really good kids, like I'll tell you, like when I watch quarterbacks, and I think we were talking about it yesterday, when they're warming up, there's certain kids where you watch the ball come off their hand
Hmm.
that there's a trigger that goes off in your mind that's like, ooh, okay. There's
Hmm.
other guys that are throwing the piss out of the ball, but they're taking a lot of time and effort to do it.
Yep.
And it's very, it's just it's non-impressive, right? And but somebody else on their team in their little league that they play in, they might be the best thing since sliced bread, right? And so, therein lies the difference. Like the guys that get to a certain level all have certain attributes, right? If they again, quarterbacks, you better be accurate. If you're a route runner or a receiver, you better be able to catch the ball, get open and catch the ball. If you're offensive lineman, you better be able to pass set and run block. Like those are things you have. Those are non-negotiables. But too many kids are worried about being a college football player, but not worrying about how to become a college football player. And I think therein lies the rub. And so parents, if you're going to help your kid, help them first become a really good player that someone wants, right? And I think that makes JP's job easier. It makes my job easier. It makes their job easier. And your job as a parent, getting them recruited easier, and their high school coach, their job a lot easier. So if they don't possess those skill sets that someone's willing to give them an education for and then pay them, revenue share money, then you're not really doing yourself a favor. You're just kind of dreaming, and dreamers get crushed all day long, right? Like you said
Hmm.
earlier, you want
Yep.
to start a business, do it. You want to lose weight, start working out,
Yep.
eat better. You have to make some actionable task. You have to do it, and if you don't do it, then you're just dreaming, and dreaming is not for success, right? Like you're just not going to will yourself into it. So I think if you're not working out, you're not eating properly, you're not doing all the extra skill work. All this stuff is for naught, right?
Yep.
Unless you fell to the earth and are just God's gift to athleticism. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking height, weight, speed. You're broad jumping 10 foot plus. You're vertical leaping 36 plus. You're on the laser. You're running in the 4.6s.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Guys,
Those
guys that
people are different.
yeah, guys that your grandmother can look at him and be like, "Hey, that's a guy." Right?
Mm-hmm.
She's never seen football before in her life. Be like, "Hey, man, that's a dude.
Oh, that's a dude. Yeah.
That's a dude.
So I
That's a
think
dude."
but JP, how many of those are there? I was telling the kids yesterday, and
There's some of those guys, but even those guys,
all my years being around middle school football,
yeah.
I have been with two guys that I've seen that were the best in middle school, the best in high school.
Yep. Middle
That's it.
school heroes, high school zeros.
Oh, can you hear me, JP?
Yep, I hear you now. There's a little bit of a lag in you, but I hear you.
Hello.
Yep.
I must have lost it.
You're there. You're there. You're there. Matt, you're turning. Can you hear me? Ryan, Big Ryan,
Can you
there?
hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, Matt's. Well, now we're looking at the ceiling. So it's about time to wrap things up anyway. Matt can't hear me, but I'll go ahead and close it on out. You can reach Matt at Elite Football Academy on X and on Instagram. The Elite Football Combine is coming up March the 14th. You want to go to elitefootballcombine.com and sign yourself up for that. It's March the 14th. Don't want to miss it out. It's a big piece of the puzzle for anybody who's interested in getting better and getting recruited. It is 18th year, and it really is the best in the Midwest. Also, this spring coming up, there's another combine. KC Varsity Combine is coming back to St. Louis for the third year at Parkway West on May the 16th. And of course, Matt and the elite guys work that combine as well. So you go to the elite combine on the 14th of March, and then a couple months later, you go to the KC Varsity Combine, get you prepared for camp season, college camp season. Check it out. And if you want to sign up before February the 28th, there's an early bird special, $25 off. Use the coupon code earlybird25, and you can go ahead and get yourself $25 off that KC Varsity Combine, kcvarsitycombine.com for that information. That'll do it for us. Appreciate you guys checking in with us all the time. You can reach me at JPRockMO on X, JPRock Scouts U, the letter U, on Instagram at gpsfootball.org. Helping navigate your football future. Go ahead and check it out. Get a free consultation with me. Until next week, and hopefully we'll have our technical issues figured out. I am JP Rock for Matt Bierman. We'll see you next week. See ya.